Where were you 20 years ago when you heard the news that Scud missiles were falling in Tel Aviv? That's right. It's been 20 years since the first Gulf War. It's hard to believe. I remember we were living in Toronto. We had 2 little children. Our second son was just born. And we heard the news. The radio was interrupted that, yes, Saddam Hussein was sending missiles to Israel. Israel, who had nothing to do with the war, nothing to do with his invasion of Kuwait, nothing to do with America and the Allies, and yet Israel was targeted, of course. Nobody knew if there were chemical warheads on these Scud missiles. And so families that we knew, the families that we were close with, and all the people in Israel, they had to create sealed rooms in their apartments in Israel. And in the middle of the night when the sirens would sound, they would grab their sleeping children and put them into this room, putting on gas masks and putting small children into almost like plastic incubators. Nobody knew what was going to be. Night after night, 39 Scud missiles fell in Tel Aviv. Hundreds and hundreds of buildings destroyed, apartments destroyed. And yet, only one person died directly from the missiles. Many were injured, and 12 people died indirectly. That means they had heart attacks or they used their gas mask wrong. So you think, wow, those Scud missiles weren't so powerful. How many of you remember that one Scud missile fell in that same war in Saudi Arabia, and 23 soldiers, American soldiers, were killed? Scud missiles are powerful, and they kill. But I just reread the book, Missiles, Masks, and Miracles, which talks about the incredible miracles that happened during this war, and how people were so protected, people who were going to go to one bomb shelter but decided to go to another, and the bomb shelter they didn't go to was destroyed, but it was empty. How homes were destroyed, and yet people walked away without a scratch. How buildings and walls came down, and yet the bag of tefillin was left unharmed. It was an incredible book that reminded me of what life was like 20 years ago when we were all glued to CNN. We were all glued to the radio. That we knew more about what was going on than even the people in Israel, because that was before they had CNN, before there were cell phones. All those years later, and yet we're still in danger. Those sealed rooms have been unsealed, and yet the danger for the Jewish people still exists. But don't forget the divine protection that Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, had 20 years ago. May it still continue today. I'm Lori, Amos Live.